Moving to Las Vegas seems like such a great decision for a lot of people. The cost of living here is lower than many major cities. You could be outside year-round. There are plenty of outdoor activities, as well as many other financial benefits. Now, you've heard me talk about this on my channel over and over. I love living in Las Vegas. So what could possibly make someone regret moving to Las Vegas? Every city has its own set of pros and cons, and a lot of times people don't realize what they are until they actually make the move to the city and experience it for themselves. Since you're watching this video, I figured you're probably trying to figure out if Las Vegas is a city that you would enjoy living in, but you just don't know what you don't know. So today I've brought on my client and now friend Eva, who was in your shoes just 8 months ago, to share about her experience in moving to Las Vegas. So today we have my friend Eva here, who I met on YouTube about 8 months ago when she was considering her move here to Las Vegas. So welcome, Eva.
Thanks, Olga. It's great to be here.
Thank you. It's so good to have you. And I'd love to just start by rewinding about 1 year ago when you started the process of thinking about making the move from California. So tell me a little bit about that process. What made you, first of all, want to move from California? There's a lot of people making the move, but what was it for you that made you consider making the move? And what was it about Las Vegas that had you consider coming here?
Well, I was considering moving because, like a lot of people, it got way too expensive in California for me. And I lived in the Bay Area, so a lot of high-tech careers happening there, and I spent a lot of time working in high-tech, and then my career ended there in high-tech. And I was just at a point where I wanted to move on. I wanted to move. I had lived in California my whole life. I was thinking that I needed to start over and I needed a change. And so Nevada had always been a thought of where I might consider moving. One, it's one state over, pretty easy. But I had originally thought about moving to Reno because I have friends and family that had lived there, and I'd have visited it a lot, but I just couldn't pull the plug. And so a lot of people told me, I just don't see you moving there. And I thought, why would they say that? It's just another place for me to try out. Just a way to step out of California and see. But for some reason, Las Vegas kept coming up in conversation with just random people. I would be talking to a fellow insurance agent, and she'd say, oh, my husband and my daughter, my ex-husband and my daughter live in Henderson. And I said, where is Henderson? I've never heard of Henderson before. And she just gave me a little brief explanation. And then I was like, oh, I need to look into this place. And they said there's always something to do there, always. And they're very different age ranges, obviously. And I thought, what's that all about? So that's what kind of started it. And that's what kind of started me thinking, I think I need to explore other options.
That's super cool. And a lot of people think that Henderson is a neighborhood in Las Vegas, and it's actually its own city with so many different neighborhoods. So did you end up coming out to Las Vegas to visit before you made that final decision? I mean, when you're considering Reno, and I don't know if you were considering any other states besides Nevada either. Maybe you can touch on that a little bit, but how did that process go?
I was considering Arizona at one point, and I had visited Arizona a few times. I had never visited Henderson or even known about Summerlin or Henderson as the suburbs, you could say, of Las Vegas. I found out about them from your YouTube videos. So I did a little Googling on my own and started seeing things I wasn't expecting to see on the internet. Oh, family-friendly community, people biking, greenery, things that I had never known existed in the Las Vegas area. Because if you come and visit the Strip, You're not going to go to the suburbs. You're not going to go to the local casinos. Why would you? You're there for one reason and one reason only, for a concert or an event or whatever. So I came out here sight unseen. I never saw anything in Henderson or Summerlin before.
Wow. So when we met that one Sunday and we went out to check out Henderson, that was your first few days in town?
It was.
Wow.
It absolutely was. But I felt like by the time you and I had actually met face to face, I had a lot of great exposure to the areas because of your videos. So I got to drive around with you in the car. And one video you went to the grocery store, and another one you said, oh, I'm getting gas. And then you would show the freeway and the traffic. And there were a lot of things that I didn't know about that I learned from those videos that helped me get a feel for what it's like to live every day in the area. So I felt like by the time we did meet face to face, that I had been here before.
Wow. Well, thank you for saying that. Sometimes when I'm doing the driving tours, I wonder, like, is this helpful for people? Because I'm sitting in my car and they're looking at the road, they're looking at the houses. When I went to the grocery store, it was also an interesting experience where I was sharing, like, here's the price of groceries. But I'm glad to hear that that was helpful for you. I'm curious, have you ever worked with anyone that you've met on YouTube, or did you have any hesitation in reaching out to me? A lot of times I hear from people, well, I just wasn't sure if you would even pick up, or if it would be you, or if you would be too busy for me because you're on YouTube. What was that experience for you?
I had never, ever met somebody or reached out to anybody on YouTube before, but because I had watched a number of your videos, I felt like I had a good understanding of who you were and your personality. And I think it broke the ice for me. It gave me, there was a point where I remember I was sitting there and I said, okay, I've seen enough. And at the end of the video that I had been watching, like a lot of them, you said, well, just give me a call or a text. And I thought, this is almost too easy. I can't remember if I called you or texted you, but I thought, what do I have to lose? I already know who she is. I've seen her driving around town. She's explained to me the different areas. There was other videos that you did, Henderson versus Summerlin, the difference between the two areas. I had gotten so much exposure to the areas from you that I think most of my big questions were answered. And then I felt comfortable reaching out. But if I hadn't have done that, I probably wouldn't have reached out. If I hadn't have spent the time looking at the videos, it kind of, like I said, broke the ice. I felt comfortable enough with your personality and your approach to everything that I was just like, I need, real time outside of YouTube.
Oh, I'm so glad you reached out, because here we are. So if anyone is in Eva's shoes and they're wondering, should I reach out to this real estate agent who is making YouTube content? Yes, absolutely. Because Eva and I have since spent a lot of time together and have developed a friendship. And when moving to a new city, it's always pretty cool to meet people that you connect with. So I'm glad you reached out, and now I have a new friend here in Las Vegas as well. But I'd love to talk about your experience when you started the process, right? You came here from California, which you were living in California for how many years?
My whole life.
Your whole life.
My whole life. I lived in California.
So it must have been a big change coming to a place that you didn't really know much about as far as the different areas, because the Las Vegas Valley is very big. Even if you're looking just in Henderson, even if you're looking just in Summerlin, there are small communities within those areas. Yeah. There are so many different neighborhoods within Henderson. So can you tell me a little bit about what that process was like for you? Because we did start with casting a really wide net. And I know you looked at a lot of different parts of the Las Vegas Valley. And I know at times it probably felt a little overwhelming of how in the world were you going to decide where you were going to actually plant roots. So do you mind sharing about that experience and what ultimately had you decide to live where you ended up living?
Yeah. For me, I came in to the area knowing that I was going to get what I'm calling a transition apartment. I knew I was going to live there for less than the amount of the lease term. I was very clear about that when I rented it. I didn't want to put pressure on myself to find a home to buy unless it was going to be the right one. And so because I came here sight unseen as far as the Las Vegas Valley areas, I wanted to give myself enough time to get comfortable face to face with everything and then see houses and walk in them. But we saw over 20 houses, I think, you and I together.
And you know what? That's not that much.
We did a lot.
But we did see a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was great because I remember you told me, you said, I don't want to overwhelm you. After about 3 or 4 or 4 or 5, they're all going to blur together. And so every time we went out, I got a little snapshot of the area and I was looking around. Okay, what's the traffic like? What's the scenery like? What are the people like? You know, could I see myself living here? And I started to really get a good feel by going to the different areas of, maybe it was process of elimination at first. This is fine, but no, not for me. Or, you know, I had enough information to make comparisons in the different areas of things like traffic of people in the neighborhoods and whatnot. I also knew what I wanted as for what I didn't want. I came from a very urban area where, you know, I knew that coming here, I wanted to live somewhere where I could walk around by myself, you know, at night or during the day, take walks. I wanted kind of a family-friendly area, really safe, but also accessible to different places that I might want to go, which is, you know, shows and events and things like that. But the exposure to the different areas when we started looking was really helpful for me because I kind of took it all in and then you and I would part and then I'd go home and I'd kind of sit with it. I didn't really make decisions as we were out. I would do it afterwards as I'm processing. So for me, it was like a fact-finding mission when we would, you know, see these different areas. I also didn't want to put a lot of pressure on myself. So I didn't want to say, this is where, if I pick this place, it'd be where I live the rest of my life. It was like, no, I could see myself living here for a few years and then, you know, maybe reassess or whatnot. That's how I eased myself into it. But the different areas for me, the two areas are very different, Henderson and Summerlin. I think they both have their perks. But you allowed me to take my time and just kind of take it all in. So my process, like I said, was we would go out, I'd be looking at everything, even when we were driving, and then I'd go home and I'd think, okay, this is how I felt. It was like a feeling. How did I feel here in this area, there in that area? You know, could I see myself living there type thing? So that's kind of how I approached it.
Yeah, and it's so hard to just pick an area and not really spend any time there and make a decision on a home. So I always tell my buyer clients who are coming into town, hey, come an extra day or two and just spend some time driving around because you may get to an area that is an absolute no for you, or you might discover an area that you love that you didn't even know existed. We drove through some different areas of Henderson that you didn't even know were there. And I'm sure that surprised you. And similarly with Summerlin, we also, I know, went out to Sky Canyon one time, and that wasn't really an area that was on your radar initially, but that was an area that you could have seen yourself. So there is a lot of discovery that happens, and it really can't happen in a couple days. So my advice is always for my clients to rent a car and go drive around and see how you feel. Now, of course, not everyone has the luxury of actually planting roots here and then and then purchasing, as everyone's situation is different. So it's really cool that you were able to do that. You picked an area of town. You were in Green Valley area, and then you from there checked out the different parts of Las Vegas to see where else it might feel like home, because eventually Green Valley started to feel like home for you, right? You had mentioned that you really loved so many elements about that area.
I still go to Green Valley all the time. That's where I work out. That's where I do a lot of things. Green Valley did feel very much like home. I really liked that area. But interestingly enough, I didn't end up buying there. So, but I think that was all the part of the process of exploring the different areas and going shopping, going to work out, driving around, just going to the different businesses and doing normal life helped me to kind of get a feel for what that area is like for me.
Yeah, doing the day-to-day things that you will be doing when you are a resident of that area.
Yep.
Now, you put in an offer on a townhome in Summerlin West, which is Summerlin West is a very popular area, and I'm sure you've heard from so many people, or even from the internet, Summerlin. So will you share with me what attracted you to checking out townhomes in Summerlin West, and what ultimately had you decide to not move forward with that townhome and to decide on a totally different area of town where you did end up purchasing?
Well, what attracted me to Summerlin was Red Rock Canyon. It's beautiful, gorgeous. Also kind of like that, I don't know, there's kind of a vibe there going on. It's easy breezy, but I don't want to say Beverly Hills but like the Beverly Hills of Las Vegas suburbs. I think the downtown Summerlin area is gorgeous with all the shops and the restaurants. But I think it was Red Rock Canyon that really drew me to that side of town. I really liked that scenic kind of background, but also, you had Red Rock behind you, and then you could see the strip at night in front of you, which it was far enough away, but it was still visible and it's gorgeous. So yeah, that was very appealing to me. As far as why I didn't go through with that offer, something kind of hit me, and I was like, you need to explore a couple more neighborhoods before you settle on this. And what I did is, you had told me, I want you to go check out Inspirada. And for whatever reason, I didn't do that. I don't know why. And something just hit me, and I was like, you need to go and check this area out before you go through with this. And I don't know what it was, but something just told me, this is it. This is where I'm supposed to be. And I don't know. And when we walked into the house, I immediately knew. I was like, oh, wow, this is it. This is the one. But truthfully, too, it was also the prices are very different in Henderson than they are in Summerlin. And this Summerlin's gorgeous. And that townhome was gorgeous. It really was. There was more people in the neighborhood in the Summerlin area than I really wanted to be around, in the sense that, a little more traffic, a little more activity. The neighborhood that I'm in is very quiet. It's very removed from everything. I mean, it was so quiet when we first got there. I remember standing out front and I go, oh my God, Olga, I can hear a pin drop right now. It's so quiet, which is not something that I thought I'd be drawn to, but for whatever reason I was. And I like the neighborhood that I'm in. But yeah, I think it was just these subtle things. It wasn't anything huge. Summerlin's gorgeous. The townhome was gorgeous. Red Rock Canyon being so close. But something drew me more to my neighborhood now. And also a big thing too, I thought about it and I thought, the price being so different. Also, I think the square footage was a little more in my neighborhood. I got more for my money, so more bang for the buck. And that was appealing. So that did it for me. And it's also more of a newer neighborhood, I think, in Inspirada. So that was kind of a big draw also.
Yeah. Inspirada is a brand new area, and you do get more for your money out there. And it is absolutely a factor for people who are looking for housing, especially when they're relocating from California and they're perhaps looking at, hey, where can I have savings? Because California obviously is very expensive. There are so many different elements to living there. In addition to housing, there is so many other extra expenses like homeowners insurance, which not sure if you experienced anything like that. But can you talk a little bit about, speaking of costs of living and expenses, how would you compare the cost of living in California, where you were in the Bay Area, which is some of the highest in the nation, to how cost of living is here? And maybe you can even mention things like property taxes or homeowners insurance, things that people would definitely take into consideration who are considering a move from California to Las Vegas.
Yeah. Well, for me, the property tax is much less here than in California, especially in the Bay Area. What I've heard, and maybe you could correct me, is that Nevada assesses property taxes based on the year the property was built instead of the last year it was sold. So that's a huge difference. In California, the taxes just kept getting higher and higher and higher. And I just, along with, partner that with everything else, with groceries, with gas, with just the cost of living, it just felt like, here's the cost of living and here's me, and the gap just kept widening. And I was starting to feel like it was a big struggle and that I was never going to close that gap, I was just always constantly chasing it. So Nevada having lower housing costs, lower property taxes, lower gas, obviously, I made, an assumption that, energy and water and all that was less, and I believe it is. I'm not going to say that is extremely less expensive than California, but it is lower from what I've seen. So couple the housing cost with the property taxes, with the savings in gas for your car, less expensive utilities. At least that's been my experience so far. I have not made it through a summer yet, but those things all were very appealing to me coming from California. California is, at least in the Bay Area, very, very expensive housing costs. The property taxes were just crazy. And I just felt like I said, with everything else, it just became overwhelming for me. And I wasn't seeing the value in, where I was spending my money. I wasn't really seeing it. In the Bay Area, you're going to get a lot more equity in your real estate, but it doesn't really help you for quality of life. Your quality of life isn't, I wanted a step up into a better quality of life. And that's what was appealing to me. So with all those costs, and then the one thing that was interesting to me is that auto insurance is a little bit more here. I don't think a lot, but it is a little more. Groceries I found were less, but not an amount where you would go, oh my God, this is so much different. There are a lot of things where I'm still shocked when I go out to get groceries. If I go to a certain place, I'm like, oh wow, in California is a lot more expensive than this, but not everything. But yeah, the housing cost for me was significantly less because of the taxes, utilities, and then you add the others, gas for your car and all that. And it just kept coming out ahead. Kept looking at it and thinking about it and kept thinking, I'm going to be so much better off, the value. Also the size of my townhome. If I were to buy or try to buy a townhome like that in the Bay Area, it would be a ridiculous amount of money. I wouldn't be able to afford it, for one. And another thing is I had a condo in the Bay Area, and it was nice. It was a really nice condo, but I always felt like, it was small and compact. And now I feel like I have this big wide open space that I can roam around in, and that's really nice.
And I know you were excited to get a garage, which you have a 2-car garage now with your townhome.
I do, and it's 2-story, which is nice, but a huge I mean, I remember when you open the door and a huge living room, kitchen, dining area, like a big open space that I love to come home to. When I open the door, when I walk in, it's the same feeling every time. Wow, I can do this. So
amazing. That makes me so happy. So speaking of quality of life, right? Especially coming from California, there could be a lot of comparisons. I'm sure there's a lot of stereotypes in California about what Las Vegas is like. A lot of people who visit Las Vegas, they only go to the Strip. So their experience of the Las Vegas Valley is very limited. Is there anything that you heard about Las Vegas prior to making the move out here that is now totally false now that you've lived here? Is there anything that you can highlight as far as quality of life that you have found to be totally different, maybe better or worse, anything like that you can share?
There's a lot of things. The first one is the weather. So when I came here, it was triple digits. And, I was just kind of like hanging out going, okay, it's really hot, and then I realized, and this is funny because I tell my friends this, I'm like, look, I don't go outside after 95 degrees no matter where I'm at. Okay. So I'm not a person, I'm not going to hang out in the sun when it's super hot. However, I noticed there's a ton of people, and it makes sense. You go out in the morning, you go out in the, early morning, late morning, and then the afternoon's hottest. But in the evening, I was going out for walks at night, and I absolutely loved the weather. You don't need a jacket. You can wear shorts. You just walk around. It is beautiful. So the weather was a big one. I'm going to approach this summer the same way. And I've asked people, so, what do you do in the summer? And the people that I know, they go the same thing we do when it's not summer. And I go, what do you mean? Like, I have a friend that is a rock climber, and she goes, I go rock climbing in the Red Rock Canyon like I always do. And she goes, it's not hot in the canyon because it's shady, right? And her friend goes stand-up paddleboarding in Lake Mead in the mornings in the summer. And then I have other friends that say, well, we go from an air-conditioned house to an air-conditioned car to an air-conditioned somewhere else. It's not like we're standing out in the heat. So I started thinking about it, and I'm all, well, wait a minute. All these people are fine in the summer. So how bad can it actually be? How tough can it be? And is it worth it? But I guess the stereotype is that it's so hot that it's unbearable and you can't live here, and you'll be trapped in your home for 4 months and you won't be able to go anywhere. And that's just not true. So that's a big one. The other big one is that Las Vegas is the Strip. And now that I live here, it's so obvious to me that the Strip is a kind of a small area compared to what Las Vegas actually is. The Strip is the Strip. That's where people come for the best entertainment in the world, and all the themed hotels, and it's great for that. But it's just one very small part of this whole area. There's so much nature here, and I've actually, on my Facebook posts and Instagram posts, my friends have commented, I had no idea that, you're going hiking here and you're going here, there. And I'm all, yeah, there's a lot that the area offers activity-wise, as far as hiking, kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding, all of that. So a lot of people think that Vegas is the Strip. And now that I'm a local, do I go to the Strip once in a while? Yeah, sure. Of course. Why wouldn't I? I go see a great concert. I'm going to go see a great
amazing
show.
Restaurant, right?
Right. Great food. Have an experience there that you wouldn't be able to have anywhere else. But I like my local casinos too. They're beautiful, and everybody's just casual, great food, great atmosphere. Lots of shows that you can go to that are not on the Strip as well. And also, as a local, you get discounts to go to a lot of things. So that's nice. But between the weather and then everybody thinking that Las Vegas is the Strip, that I think are the two biggest things, misconceptions I would say that people have about the area. Yeah.
I know there's a lot of chatter, especially in my comments and just out there about so many Californians coming to Nevada and perhaps people not being welcoming to Californians. Have you experienced anything like that at all?
Actually, the opposite. So when I came, and remember, I'm from Northern California, so I don't know how it is for the rest of California. When I came, people would talk to me, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I was like, wait, other than the obligatory, hey, how are you? Oh, I'm fine. How are you? They would keep talking to me. And when I first got here, I was like, oh, this is weird. Like, what do they want? And then as time went by, I thought, oh, wow, people are nice here. That they're just being nice. They don't even want anything. They're just being conversational. One time I walked into somewhere and I went and just had something to eat by myself. And I remember the waitress came up and was talking to me, hey, how are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, great, thanks. And I put my order in. And then the bar manager was like, hey, how are you? Then I'm like, okay. And then the restaurant manager comes over, how are you doing tonight? And I'm just like, okay, I don't even know how to act. Yeah. But also people have been very inclusive. The places that I go work out, we all go hiking together. We celebrate holidays together. Just random strangers wherever I go are extremely welcoming to me. And I like that. I enjoy that because I'm a people person, but I didn't know how people in Nevada were going to treat me being from California. I didn't really worry about it, if we're being honest, but when I got here, I started thinking, this is strange because everybody's so nice. And that's been my experience. It's rare that somebody is, either frosty or, a little bit cold or whatever. Yeah. It's a rarity.
Yeah. So no stereotypes that you've heard of from California of people being a certain kind of way, or you seeing a certain kind of population here in your day-to-day life. You're experiencing that people are kind and welcoming. And
I feel like people here are just living their life. They have families, they have jobs. They want the same things I do. They want a peaceful existence and a nice area. And for me, being able to access nature so close by, that's amazing. That is not something, being in California, yes, you have all these gorgeous places you can go, but it seems like there's just a million people trying to go there too. Do I miss the beach? Yeah, but did I go to the beach? No, because if I wanted to go to the beach, I'd have to get up at 7 a.m. and beat the traffic over the hill.
Yeah.
So that's another thing about living here. There is traffic, but it's not gridlock traffic, and everything kind of flows. And everything, I don't know if it was, I think it was you that told me everything's 20 minutes away here.
Yeah, 20 minutes.
And nothing could be truer. My friends were visiting and they're like, yeah, how long to say? Oh, 20 minutes. Everything's 20 minutes. And that's pretty true. So.
Yeah. Have there been any surprises, anything that you have been shocked by in a good way or maybe in a bad way now that you've lived here for about 8 months and you are a local, as you said so yourself?
I don't know. I guess I'm surprised how quickly I acclimated. It happened pretty fast, especially with the weather when I first came. Yeah, and also when I would talk to people that have lived here and grown up here and lived here for a number of years, I would say, well, what do you do, for fun? Where do you go? And it's pretty diverse. There's always something to do here. That really could not be more true. Does it have to be going to the Strip and seeing a show? No, absolutely not. But there's always something to do. There's a big community here in the neighborhoods of people, and everybody's so welcoming and inclusive that kind of shocked me a little bit. I just kind of went with it. And for me, I would say the biggest kind of aha was like, they're easy, they're simple, they flow. I don't have to work really hard to make anything happen here. Whereas when I was in California, I felt I was struggling in every area all the time. So this is it's a nice change, and it's continued to be that way for how long have I been here? 9 months? 9 months, maybe? I don't know. It's continued to be that way.
Well, that's so great to hear. Las Vegas has been known a lot as being a transient city, but what's happening is there are a lot of Californians that are moving here because they're excited about being in Las Vegas and getting some of the benefits that the city offers, right? Maybe not feeling so strained all the time, like you were saying. And also there's people moving to Las Vegas from all over the country, all over the world. You meet people from, different places. I have some clients that are coming here from the UK, so even internationally, but it's a melting pot. And from what you're saying and from my experience, I truly see it as a city where people are excited to be. They're here because they're choosing to be here. And I do like what you said about the ease. It does feel easy in a lot of ways. And maybe that's why so many people are flocking here. Yeah, it's tough when day-to-day life can be so challenging, right? And on the internet, Las Vegas is, when you watch YouTube, there are so many positive things that are being said about the city. So it's always good to hear from someone who has been here for 8 months. That's not a real estate agent, right? That can truly share a genuine experience of what life is really like here. Now, of course, I know you said you haven't experienced the summer here, which tends to be one of the concerns for people. Absolutely. It does get hot. And when it is 115 here, of course, it's tough to be outside. You have to plan your morning hikes, if you're a hiker, to be a little earlier, walking your pets a little bit earlier, a little bit later. But at the end of the day, life goes on, and 100 degrees actually feels really nice here because there's lots of misters. There is, covered patios at restaurants, and people do go on and they live their normal lives. So let me ask about work. So when you came here from California, you were already employed, and now you're currently working remote here, correct? So tell me a little bit about how that impacted your decision of maybe where you lived, and also how that process is going for you of working remotely in Las Vegas, because I know a lot of people are coming here from other parts of the country and they're holding on to a job that they might have in the Bay Area or Chicago, Seattle. So what's that experience been like for you?
For me, it's been great. I was a little worried in the beginning because, my business is one where you need to network and stay connected. But working from home for me is great. During COVID, it was rough. But being able, I plan my day around, putting in work and then going for a walk and getting my workouts in. I plan my life around what matters to me the most. And so working from home and being remote in a bigger space is so much better. I actually have an office. It's bright, it's light. And I remember I told you in the beginning, I go, Olga, I need brightness. I can't do dark anything. It's nice to have the space and the area to work and put the time and attention on the work that I need to. It just helped me a lot to spread out from working from home. And again, I break it up. I go for walks, I do my workouts, I do whatever, also social things that I'm going to do. But that's been great. And I've also networked quite a bit here, like with a lot of different groups. And I'm not sure, honestly, how that even started. I think I just started looking things up on the internet of events and things like on an Eventbrite or whatever. And then I got connected with this group or that group or whatever. But there are so many things happening that for my business, I can connect every day of the week if I wanted to. I can go into an event every day of the week in my area, in my local area, where I'm going to meet people that help with my business, that also, even if they don't, aren't in need of what I have to offer, they're a connection. And what I've noticed too is that it's not just about business here. When you meet people here, it's a connection, it's a relationship. And so you end up having, like either a social connection or a friendship with people. It's not just strictly business. And I like that. And that's how I have kind of built my circle out. Is it started with business and then it kind of morphed into more. And it seems to be a consistent theme in this area, is that, first of all, there's always something to do, but that isn't just shows and this and that. It's like there's literally always something to do. There's either a neighborhood festival or a community event or a workshop that you might want to go visit and talk to people. Yeah, so for me, working remote, I feel like you have to get out of the house. You can't just be in the house all the time. It's not healthy. That actually works really well for me because I get the best of both worlds. I get to work from home and then I get to go do my thing and meet people. And I'm meeting people all the time. And those connections are leading to more connections. And like I said, it's not just business. It's, workout people, we go hiking together. We celebrate holidays together. We, and in the neighborhood, they have a bunch of groups and spring festivals and, fun committees and social events all the time. So that helps me kind of balance. And especially in the summer, when it is going to be hot outside, I'm not going to be outdoors in the afternoon, me personally, but I will be come when the sun goes down, and when it's evening time, I'll be out. In the morning, I'll be out. So I'll be kind of working my life around, that.
So what I'm hearing you say is you just have to put yourself out there, and there is something for everyone, professionally, on the fun side, fitness, health related, community engagement, community festivals. You just have to plug yourself in and be willing to put yourself out there.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, and I'm not even saying that I'm super great at that. I mean, coming here, I was a little hesitant. I didn't put too much thought into it, but then I was like, oh, okay, if I don't put myself out there, then I'm probably not going to meet anybody. And I wanted to come here and explore. I wanted to explore all the area has to offer, but all the events and the people. And I wanted to learn about what do people do, how long have they lived here? And what was really surprising to me is I would learn, like, people, oh yeah, I've been here 20 something years. And I'm like, okay, well, they survived the summer, right? And all these things that everybody worries about. But I do put myself out there, but at the same time, it's not really hard. It's not difficult. I did not feel like any resistance. It was like, oh, come join us, come do this, come do that. And there's enough variety to where you don't feel like you're locked into this or that. I mean, I'm constantly doing something. I'm doing a mixology event here, or a hike here, or a workout there, or a work event. The casinos have a lot of events where you can, just join up and get a table and that kind of thing to kind of help with your work. But yeah, putting yourself out there, the effort. But I feel like I was met. Like I put myself out there and then people met me. I didn't have to go chase it down.
Oh, that's so great. And it truly is, I agree. It's such a welcoming community, and people are really, they were just really nice. And I remember you telling me your first few weeks here, you were going to shows and concerts, and you've checked out all the Pilates studios. Yeah. And I was just really happy for you because you approached it with an attitude of you were just open to going and having the experiences and taking advantage of everything that Las Vegas has to offer. It is truly a 24/7 city. There's something to do day and night. If you want to go to an amazing restaurant at 2 a.m, you can. Or you can wake up at 7 a.m. and go to a Pilates studio, and you can live whatever lifestyle that suits you.
Right.
And do it in a way that feels great for you and take full advantage of it. with people opening their arms to you. And this community is truly, really great. So I'm so happy to hear about your experience. And I'd love to just wrap up this conversation with seeing what advice you might have or any reflections on your experience. Just because, people who are watching this interview are likely considering making a move to Las Vegas. And since you're a pro now and you've done it and you're here now, true local, I would love to any final words of wisdoms, reflections, anything you want to share.
Well, I mean, looking back, I'm actually kind of proud of myself that I made a bold move. Something told me to make the move. But once I got here, like I said, it wasn't difficult. It was almost too easy to kind of acclimate to everything and meet people and that. But putting yourself out there is, number one. I think exploring the area really helped me. And I mean exploring the area, going to Red Rock, Summerlin, Henderson, and everything it has to offer, going to Green Valley and, just going out there and living your normal life, your day-to-day life, every day, exploring different places. I have done a lot of that. I did a lot of that with you when we were looking for our houses, which was great because it removed, I think there was a lot of misinformation that I had about different areas, and that helped me. But also just getting out there and driving around on the freeways, like the 215, getting familiar with all the streets here, and the freeways they're really long and they go from one side to the other, I noticed. Getting familiar, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten lost just going home sometimes.
That's normal.
And I ended up in this great place. I got lost one day from a networking event, and I ended up at the 7 Mountains rocks or whatever, the painted rocks out there that I didn't even know existed. So my biggest advice would be just get out and explore, because why else would you move anywhere if you're just going to, hang out at home, do your normal routine, go and do the things that make you happy, go and do the things that are fun. And, if you like hiking and whatnot, I mean, everything's so close. There's so much more nature and adventure that I did not know about. I just, didn't know. But yeah, that would be my biggest advice would be to get out there and, every weekend go, let's go here. There are so many places I haven't been still that I want to go. And everybody that I talk to tells me about something else. Also, the thing here is that people are really open with, you've got to go here. You've got to go here, and this is why. And I'm just like, oh, wow, it just keeps building.
And what tips would you give to someone who is perhaps watching this YouTube video and they want to reach out to a real estate agent, myself, or another real estate agent? What tips would you give to someone who is just really unfamiliar with the Las Vegas Valley as a whole? It could be overwhelming. Maybe any steps to take on doing research on their end, or anything that you think worked really well for you when working with me in getting to understand the area?
Well, the biggest thing with us working together was the videos that you shared on YouTube about the area were so diverse that I feel like I got a really great bird's eye view of things. So it was an introduction to, what the areas are like, what they have to offer. Doing research online is always helpful because then you get to see, things like what struck me a lot when I was doing research was, Henderson's one of the safest cities, in Nevada, and I don't even know how it ranks.
Yeah, and all over the country.
Yeah, all over the country. That was really surprising and appealing to me. I wouldn't have known that had I not kind of dug further. So your videos really helped get me face to face with the area. That's what I really liked. And then I would just take information and then go a little bit further and look into, the areas themselves. on the internet. I hear all the time, oh, I have a cousin that lives in Henderson. Oh, I have a friend. These things weren't talked about until I started looking into moving to the area. I didn't even know Henderson existed. I'd never heard of it before. People that I've known for most of my life, oh, my cousin lives there. And I'm like, why did we never talk about this? Because I guess there was no reason to. Another thing I did do, I have two people in the area that I used to work with and hadn't spoken with in years. I reached out to them and I said, hey, would you, be okay talking to me about your experience moving there? And I did. And they were very honest with me, and it was all good. And they live in very different areas. One lives in Centennial Hills. The other lives in Seven Hills in Anthem. And they both had said great things, and they had lived here for years. And they're very different experiences in that, one of them is really active and lives farther out. The other ones, they love to go to the casinos. And, my friend told me, oh, they're great to retirees here. And I was like, oh, okay. The income tax, there's no state income tax here.
That's right.
That's a whole nother thing that I've yet to experience because, my taxes this year were mostly California. But yeah, I would say talking to people. And then what I found is that, opening the door and having this conversation led to this conversation, led to that conversation. And people were super great about saying, oh, I have a friend, you might want to talk to them. So between the two, like your YouTube videos and then digging deep into that, and then just talking to anybody that I had ever known had moved here, which, like I said, was only two people. It wasn't a lot. And just getting there, are you happy? What's it been like? How's the transition? What do you do with your free time? Tell me, because I'm picturing this desert of 1,000 degrees where you're locked in the house, and nothing could be further from the truth. So
I hear this all the time. People are so surprised, especially those who move from California, at how much there is to do outdoors here. And now I know we didn't even talk about Mount Charleston. That's about 35, 40 minutes away. You could go skiing, snowboarding, hiking. It tends to be a little cooler in the summer. So if you are looking for a little escape during the day in the summer, it is much higher in elevation. So you can head out there for a hike. But it really is a really big surprise for people. And, of course, we don't have the ocean here as, we do, as Californians do. But there's the mountains. There's lots of other bodies of water. You could do a little staycation in Lake Las Vegas, which just feels like you are a million miles away at a resort. Plenty of golf courses, pickleball courts, and you name it. It's here.
Pickleball's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Everywhere.
I will admit I've started playing pickleball. I'm hooked.
Did you?
I've caught the bug.
I love it.
I've caught the bug.
Yeah.
But, thank you so much for sharing your experience. I know that this is so helpful for so many people who are considering doing what you did, who are in your shoes where you were 8 months ago. And like you said, it is really valuable to talk to someone who is actually living the Las Vegas lifestyle. And if they don't have someone to talk to, they have this conversation to lean on and take away, the things that they want to take away from it. And I just know that this has been also really great for me to hear about your experience. And I'm glad it was such a positive one.
Well, you are very welcome, Olga, and thank you. You've been amazing. Such a great help to me. I really appreciate you having me here. So thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. If you're thinking about making the move to Las Vegas and would like to chat, I would be more than happy to be a resource for you during this process. My contact information is below. Feel free to call me, text me, email me, and I look forward to hearing from you. And with that, I will see you in the next one.